When the gods, like man, did the work, bore the loads, the gods' load was too great, the work too hard, the trouble too much. The great Anunnaki made the Igigi carry the workload sevenfold. They took the box of lots and cast the lots. The gods made the division. Anu went up to the sky, and Enlil took the earth for his people. The bolt which bars the sea was assigned to far-sighted Enki. When Anu had gone up to the sky, and the gods of the Absu had gone below, the Anunnaki of the sky made the Igigi bear the workload. The gods had to dig out canals, had to clear channels, the lifelines of the land. The gods dug out the Tigris riverbed, and then dug out the Euphrates. In the deep they set up the Absu of the land. For many years they bore the excess, hard work, night and day. They groaned and blamed each other, grumbled over the masses of excavated soil. Then one of them made his voice heard and spoke to the gods, his brothers.
Come, let us carry Enlil, the counselor of the gods, the warrior, from his dwelling. Now cry battle, let us mix fight with battle.
The gods listened to his speech, set fire to their tools, put aside their spades for fire, their loads for the fire god. They flared up. When they reached the gate of the warrior Enlil's dwelling, it was the night, the middle watch. The house was surrounded. Enlil had not realized. Yet Kaukau, Enlil's gate master, was attentive. He had the gate closed. He held the lock and watched the gate. Kaukau roused Nusku. They both listened to the noise of the Igigi. Then Nusku roused his master, made him get out of bed. My lord, your house is surrounded. The Igigi are running around your door. Enlil had weapons brought to his dwelling. Enlil made his voice heard and spoke to the vizier Nusku.
Nusku, bar your door. Take up your weapons and stand firm in front of me.
Nusku barred his door, took up his weapons, and stood in front of Enlil. Nusku made his voice heard and spoke to the warrior Enlil. O my lord Enlil, why do you fear your own sons? Send for Anu to be brought down to you. Have Enki fetched into your presence. He sent for Anu to be brought down for him. Enki was fetched into his presence. Anu, king of the sky, was present. Enki, king of the Absu, attended. The great Anunnaki were all present. Enlil got up, and the case was put. Enlil made his voice heard and spoke to the great gods.
Is it against me that they have risen? Shall I do battle with them? What did I see with my own eyes? A rabble was running around my door.
Anu made his voice heard and spoke to the warrior Enlil.
Let Nusku go out and find out the word of the Igigi who have surrounded your door.
Enlil made his voice heard and spoke to the vizier Nusku.
Nusku, open your door. Take up your weapons and stand before me. In the assembly of all the gods, bow, then stand and tell them, your father Anu, your counselor warrior Enlil, your chamberlain Ninurta, and your canal controller Inuki have sent me to say, who is in charge of this rabble? Who is in charge of this fighting? Who declared war? Who ran to the door of Enlil?
Nusku opened his door, took up his weapons, went before Enlil. In the assembly of all the Igigi he bowed, then stood and delivered Enlil's message.
Every single one of us gods declared war. We have put a stop to the digging. The load is too excessive. It is killing us. Our work is too hard. The trouble too much. So every single one of us gods has agreed to complain to Enlil.
Nusku took his weapons, went and returned to Enlil. There, Nusku delivered the answer of the Igigi. Enlil listened to his speech. His tears flowed. Enlil spoke guardedly, and addressed the Sky King, Anu.
Noble one, take a decree with you to the sky. Show your strength while the Anunnaki are sitting before you. Call up one rebellious god and let them cast him for destruction.
Anu made his voice heard and spoke to the gods his sons.
What are we complaining of? Their work was indeed too hard. Their trouble was too much. Every day the earth resounded with their groans and cries. The warning signal was loud enough. We kept hearing the noise, but we ignored them. They have every right to revolt and complain to the house of Enlil.
Enlil was enraged with his father's answer. Then far-sighted Enki stepped in and offered a wise solution to the trouble. Enki made his voice heard and spoke to the gods his brothers. There is an answer to this problem, noble Anu. Call forth Mami, the womb goddess, into your presence. When Mami, the womb goddess, is present, let her create offspring. Let her create a mortal man, so that he may bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let man bear the load of the gods. They called up the goddess, asked the midwife of the gods, wise Mami, You are the womb goddess to be the creator of mankind. Create a mortal, that he may bear the yoke. Let him bear the yoke, the work of Enlil. Let man bear the load of the gods. Mami made her voice heard and spoke to the great gods. It is not proper for me to make him. That work is Enki's. He must make everything pure. If Enki gives me the clay, then I will do it. Wise Mami, mother of the gods your sons, your wisdom is noted and shall be made to pass. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the month, I shall make a purification by washing. Then one Anunnaki god should be chosen for sacrifice, and the gods can be purified by immersion. Mami shall mix clay with his flesh and blood. Then a god and a man will be mixed together in clay. Let us hear the drumbeat of his heart forever after. Let a ghost come into existence from the god's flesh. Let her proclaim it as his living sign, and let the ghost exist so as not to forget the slain god. They all answered, Yes, in the assembly, the great Anunnaki who assigned the fates. On the 1st, 7th, and 15th of the month, Enki made a purification by washing. Geshtu, a pure young god who had intelligence, they slaughtered in their assembly. Mami mixed clay with his flesh and blood. After she mixed that clay, she called up the Anunnaki, the great gods, and the Igigi, the great gods, who spat spittle upon the clay. Mami made her voice heard and spoke to the great gods. I have carried out perfectly the work that you ordered of me. You have sacrificed a god together with his intelligence. I have relieved you of your hard work. I have imposed your load upon man. They listened to this speech of hers and were freed from anxiety. They fell down and kissed her feet. We used to call you Mami, but now your name shall be mistress of all gods. Far-sighted Enki and wise Mami went into the room of fate. The womb goddesses were assembled. Enki trod the clay in her presence. Mami kept reciting the incantation, for Enki, staying in her presence, made her recite it. When she had finished her incantation, she pinched off 14 pieces of clay, and set 7 pieces on the right, 7 on the left. 7 created males, 7 created females, for the womb goddess is the creator of fate. Enki paired them 2 by 2. He paired them 2 by 2 in her presence. The womb goddesses were assembled, and Mami was present. They counted the months, called up the 9th month as the term of fates. When the 9th month came, she slipped in her staff and opened the womb. Enlil was very pleased with the work of far-sighted Enki and wise Mami. The new mortals grew quickly, and soon they took hold of tools, made new picks and spades, made big the canals so as to feed the people and sustain the gods. Many years had passed, and the country became too wide, the people too numerous. The country was as noisy as a bellowing bull. The gods grew restless at their racket. Enlil had to listen to their noise. Enlil organized his assembly. He addressed the great gods.
The noise of mankind has become too much. I am losing sleep over their racket. Give the order that the Sarapu disease shall break out. Let Namtar put an end to their noise straight away. Let sickness blow into them like a storm.
The gods gave the order, and Sarapu disease was unleashed upon the people of the land. Now, in those days, in the city of Shurapak, there was one Ziusudra, a wise man, whose ear was open to his god Enki. He would speak with his god, and his god would speak with him. Ziusudra made his voice heard and spoke to his lord.
How long will the gods make us suffer? Will they make us suffer illness forever? O Lord, the people are grumbling. Sickness from the gods is consuming the country. Since you created us, you ought to cast off this unholy sickness.
Enki listened to his speech, and then made his voice heard, speaking to his servant Ziusudra. Call the elders, the senior men. Start an uprising in your own house. Let heralds proclaim. Let them make a loud noise in the land. Do not revere your gods. Do not pray to your goddesses, but search out the door of Namtar. Bring a baked loaf into his presence. Make the flour offering reach him. May he be shamed by the presence and wipe away his punishing hand. Ziusudra took the order, gathered the elders of the city to his door. Ziusudra made his voice heard and spoke to the gathered elders, telling them all that Enki had told him. The elders listened to his speech. They built a temple for Namtar in the city. The heralds proclaimed. They made a loud noise in the land. They did not revere their gods. They did not pray to their goddesses, but searched out the door of Namtar, brought a baked loaf into his presence. They made the flour offerings reach him, and he was shamed by the presence. Namtar wiped away his punishing hand. The Sarapu disease left them, and the sickness left the land. The gods went back to their regular offerings. In time, the land became noisy again. Enlil once again organized his assembly and addressed the gods.
I have become restless at their noise. Sleep cannot overtake me because of their racket. Cut off the food from the people. Let vegetation be too scant for their stomachs. Let Ishka on high make his rain scarce. Let him block the bellow and not raise floodwater from the springs. Let the field decrease its yield. Let the dark fields become white. Let the earth clamp down her womb so that no vegetation sprouts, no grain grows. Let a saku be inflicted on the people. Let the womb be too tight to let a baby out.
The Anunnaki listened to the decree of Enlil. They cut off food for the people and did all that was ordered of them. That first year, the land produced no vegetation. The land produced no grain. The people sought in vain for food. When the second year arrived, they had depleted the city storehouses. When the third year arrived, the people's looks were changed by starvation. When the fourth year arrived, their upstanding bearing bowed, their well-set shoulders slouched. People went out in public, hunched over with the pain of starvation. When the fifth year arrived, daughters would suspiciously eye their mothers. Mothers would not open their doors for their daughters. Daughters would watch the scales at the sale of their mothers into slavery. Mothers would watch the scales at the sale of their daughters. When the sixth year arrived, they served up daughters for their meals. They served up sons for food. When only a few households were left, their faces covered with scabs like malt, people stayed alive by taking the life of others. Now, in those days, Ziusudra again approached Lord Enki. Ziusudra made his voice heard and spoke to his lord.
O Lord Enki, how long must the people suffer at the hands of the gods? How long will the Anunnaki punish the children of men and the children of gods? Why are we made to starve? Why was Ishka ceased his reign? Why has he ceased his fertile flood? The people are eating one another. None are safe. Happiness is no longer in the land.
Enki listened to his speech, and as before, Enki ordered Ziusudra to do just as he had done when Namtar sent sickness to the land. Ziusudra followed his orders, called the elders to his house, and gave them the orders of Enki. The people built a temple for Ishka in the city, made offerings to him, and Ishka was shamed by the presence. Ishka withdrew his hand from the land. He made mist form in the morning, and in the night he stole out and made dew drop. He opened his clouds and released the rains. He delivered to the field a harvest of its produce ninefold. The drought left the land, and the gods went back to their regular offerings. Now Enlil was furious. He convened the assembly and made his voice heard.
We, the great Anuna, all of us, agreed together on a plan. Anu and Ishka were to guard above. I was to guard the earth below. Where Enki went, he was to undo the chain and set us free. He was to release the produce for the people. He was to exercise control by holding the balance. But Enki has instead bestowed upon mankind the secrets of our heavens. He is the one who has caused knowledge to increase. He has corrupted mankind. Enki is to blame for our woes. Have Enki fetched for me. Have him brought into my presence straightway.
Enki was fetched for him. He was made to wait before the assembly. The gods grew anxious as he sat. In the gods' assembly, Wari gnawed at Enki. He grew anxious as he sat. They were furious with each other, Enki and Enlil. Finally, the warrior Enlil addressed Enki.
We, the great Anuna, all of us, agreed together on a plan. Anu and Ishka were to guard above. I was to guard the earth below. Where you went, you were to undo the chain and set us free. You were sent to release produce for the people. You were to exercise control by holding the balance. But instead, you have given wisdom to the people. You gave them forbidden knowledge. Your creations have despoiled the earth. You agreed to a different plan. You betrayed the gods by teaching man to shame the gods. You caused that Ishka should release his reins, that Namtar should stay his sickness against the holy will of the gods. Therefore, since you imposed your load upon man, you bestowed noise on mankind, you slaughtered a god together with his intelligence, you must now use your power to create a flood. As your punishment, it is indeed your power that shall be used against your people. You agreed to the wrong plan. I will have it reversed. Let us make far-sighted Enki swear an oath to this end, that his power shall inundate the earth and wipe away all life.
Why should you make me swear an oath? Why should I use my power against my people? The flood that you mentioned to me, what is it? I do not even know. Could I give birth to a flood? That is Enlil's kind of work. Let him choose destruction. Let Enlil choose his champions. The assembly listened to his speech, but they did not listen to his plea. The gods gave a specific command. Enki was forced to swear the oath, and Enlil performed a bad deed to the people. Now Ziusudra sought his master day and night, but could find him nowhere. He spoke to him, but he would not answer, for Enki was sworn to silence. Instead, Enki came to Ziusudra in a dream and instructed him to go to the temple, put his ear to the wall, and listen for his god. With that, Ziusudra went to the temple and placed his ear to the reed wall. Enki spoke through the wall and made his voice heard, speaking to his servant. Make sure you attend the message I tell you. Listen constantly to me. Dismantle your house. Build a boat with its materials. Reject possessions and save living things. The boat you build, draw it with the design of a circle. Roof it like the Absu so that the sun cannot see inside it. Make upper decks and lower decks. The tackle must be very strong, and the asphalt strong to give strength. I shall make rain fall on you here. Take a wealth of birds, a hamper of fish. Ziusudra received the message and gathered up the elders at his door. He made his voice heard and spoke to the elders.
My god is out of favor with your god. Enki and Enlil have become angry with each other. They have driven me out of my house. Since I always stand in awe of Enki, he told me of this matter. I can no longer stay in Shurapak. I can no longer set my foot in Enlil's territory again. I must go down to the Absu and stay with my god. I must build a boat to take me there. That is what he told me to.
The elders heard his words and called the carpenters and all manner of workmen to his aid. Everything he needed was fetched to him. Everything was built according to plan. All manner of life was placed aboard the boat. Ziusudra selected the best of all species. He invited his people to a feast. He put his family and friends on board the vessel. They were eating, they were drinking, but Ziusudra went in and out, pacing the decks of his boat. He could not stay still on his haunches. His heart was breaking, and he was vomiting bile. The face of the weather changed. Ishkur bellowed from the clouds. When Ziusudra heard the noise, he sealed up the door. The winds were raging. Even as he went up and cut through the ropes, he released the boat. Anzu was tearing at the sky with his talons. The bolt of Absu broke open, and the flood came out. The flood went against the people like an army. No one could see anyone else clearly. None of them could be recognized in the catastrophe. The flood roared like a bull, like a wild ass screaming. The winds howled. The darkness was total. There was no sun. The bodies of man floated on the surface like fat white sheep, their corpses pushed by the flood into heaps like piles of dead dragonflies in the marsh. The earth was inundated with the power and noise of the flood. After the 7th day had passed, the torrent ceased. Silence fell upon the earth. The sun came out and began to shine. When Ziusudra heard the silence, he opened a window in the boat and saw that the sun was shining. He took a raven and released it from the boat. The raven never returned. The waters receded, and the boat of Ziusudra came to rest. Ziusudra put down the door of his boat and let out all the animals and people within. He put down an offering for the gods, provided food for the gods. He made a burnt offering for the Anunnaki. The gods smelt the fragrance and gathered like flies over the offering. It was then that Enlil and Anu arrived. Enlil spotted the boat and was furious.
We, the great Anunna, all of us agreed together on an oath. No form of life should have escaped. How did any man survive the catastrophe?
Anu made his voice heard and spoke to the warrior Enlil.
Who but Enki would do this?
Enki then spoke up and made his voice heard before all the gods. I did it, in defiance of you. I made sure life was preserved on the earth. Exact your punishment from the sinner and whoever contradicts your order, but I have given vent to my feelings. Enlil made his voice heard and spoke to the far-sighted Enki.
Come, summon Mami, the womb goddess. Confer with each other in the assembly.
Enki made his voice heard and spoke to the womb goddess Mami. You are the womb goddess who decrees destinies. You have created the destinies of the people. Whatever you say shall be made so. Let some of the people be born with sickness. Let some of them be born infertile. Let some babies die in the womb. Let some children die young, and let religion make some of them celibate. That will control their childbirth. Let the Igigi listen to this song in order to praise you, and let them record your greatness. I shall sing of the flood to all people. Listen.